Hi, welcome to Teachers Talking Teaching. I'm Tracy Gile and I've been an educator for a long time. Wanted to talk to you about teaching because we're super excited to have a podcast where we celebrate all that's great and wonderful about teaching. And I'm here with another Tracy, Tracy Bean.
So I'm Tracy Bean, also been an educator for years and a mom, so an educator at home and at school. And yeah, we're just super excited to get to hopefully inspire everybody to be excited about their job as a teacher in the education field these days. So Tracy, we're going to start today by just kind of giving our background information. I like to joke that it's like your origin story. So tell your teaching origin story today.
This is my 27th year in public education, so it feels like it's been a long time of an origin story, but I started out as a second grade migrant school teacher. So I was in a bilingual classroom, and so I was teaching in English and Spanish, and it was my very first teaching job, and I was scared every day that I was going to screw something up or lose a child, as you kind of think about those early elementary classrooms and all of the things that you have to think about on your first day. And so that was my first teaching job. And then I actually moved into teaching high school. So I taught high school language arts and speech and debate for a number of years, and then began teaching online as like a night job to earn a little extra money. So it was one of the very first online high school programs in the state. And I taught intro to college composition online to mostly rural communities across the state that kids couldn't access a lot of the college preparatory programs because their schools were just too small. And so I had different classes that I taught online in the late 90s when it was still pretty new. And then moved into a district office position doing professional development for teachers, and then moved into a principal position, and now I'm a district administrator. How about you, Tracy?
So I started out teaching first grade was my very first job, and then was in a school where we looped actually. Mm-hmm. So there was a loop at the time. Kindergarten was only half time, so the loops were you either went from second to third or fourth to fifth. And so I started out in first, and then took another teacher's the second half of her loop. Moved to third my second year, went back to second, and then stayed home with my kids for about 9 years, and then when I went back, I taught fourth. So in my first 4 years of teaching, with a little break in there in between, I had covered first through fourth. Wow. And then eventually switched over to a new school. When I took that new job, I took a job as a gifted and talented teacher, which is something I never really thought I wanted to do. I thought my calling was more to work with kids on kind of the other end of the spectrum, kind of like you did, like, kids with higher needs, lower socioeconomic, like kids who really needed good teachers. But then I found out gifted and talented kids need good teachers too, and people who are passionate and care about them and their needs. So I did that actually for 7 years, I think. So, and lived in that world, and it was part-time. So it was a great job to do with my kids at the time. And especially as a transitioning back from a stay-at-home mom. During that time, got my master's in principal license as well. And then once my oldest graduated from high school, it was time to go back to full-time. So I shifted back into the classroom, and now I've been a fifth grade teacher for 3 years. So yeah, in my 16 years of teaching, I've taught first through fifth and been an interventionist, basically. I always joke, though, that I'll never go to kindergarten because there's a special place in heaven for kindergarten teachers because, oh my gosh, I don't know how they do it. Like first grade was tough enough the first year I did it. So all those zippers and shoes that need tied and it was too much.
Whenever I subbed kindergarten as a principal, I was, again, scared to lose somebody. So I was constantly counting, like every 30 minutes, like, are they all still here? Are they all still here?
Yeah. If you count I subbed for a semester because I graduated when I graduated from college, I graduated in December. So the second semester I was actually subbing. And I always joked that subbing kindergarten was the hardest because they would be so offended if you changed anything. They were like, that's not the way our teacher does it. And fifth graders were like, whatever, like you want to change it up, we're good with that. So
You
I
learn
think,
to check with the kids, like, is this how Mrs.
yeah,
So-and-so does it?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Yeah.
They get in their ruts
Mm-hmm.
and they have their patterns. But yeah, I thought originally when I started out teaching that I was a primary teacher too.
Mm-hmm.
I had all these things about who I thought I was, and they all turned out to be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think fifth grade is like the sweet spot.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, what's your favorite grade
Yeah.
of all of those?
Yeah.
Fifth grade?
Fifth grade is definitely my favorite. I feel like you get the elements of middle school every so often, which maybe drive you a little crazy, but they're capable of doing so much on their own. And I really love pulling in technology, and I love that they can do so much of that on their own, and half the time can teach you things you didn't know. And I like the content of fifth grade too. It's fun to teach about, kind of the early days of American history and the Revolutionary War, and just the topics you can have in-depth good discussions with them, and they can enter into that. So yeah, teaching human growth and development is always interesting too. So yeah, it's
It
fun.
sure is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's popping in your classroom this week?
So I am a huge reader, and it almost doesn't matter. I will read adult books at home for fun. I read a lot of kids' books, and then of course professional development type books. So I'm excited because our local bookstore, I just got my copy of Chasing Rabbits, and so it's a book that's kind of a follow-up to a book called Math Recess, and it's ways to make math fun for kids and kind of games for kids. And I'm always fascinated with why math works, because I feel like I myself I wouldn't have considered myself a great math student. I was an English major in college. And so it's been interesting over the years, especially when I did gifted and talented. My whole world was teaching math basically, because I taught third, fourth, and fifth grade math. And so I feel like I've become obsessed with the why behind math, because I kind of get it finally, at least at an elementary level. Right. If I had to teach calculus, I'd be in trouble. But
they say, though, once you get it at a conceptual level at elementary school, that's how it leads to understanding.
And I feel like I got the conceptual level by teaching it. I didn't get it myself when I was teacher, but or when I was in school, but I feel like I've got that now. So now I'm drawn to, weirdly enough, books that are all about math. So I'm excited to read that. And then I also, when I went with the kids to the library this week to check out books, I realized there was a sequel to Holes that I didn't know about.
Oh my gosh.
So the
such
movie,
a memorable book.
And such a great book. And so it's called Small Steps. So I actually checked a book out from our school library this week. And so I'm excited to read that and see if it's as good as the original. So a little bit of fun reading, a little bit of professional reading, all mixed in. So over the next few weeks.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you? What's popping in your world this week?
Well, I was talking with someone about working with principals. So right now at my current job, I work in coaching and supporting principals. And they're in this space where they really value their relationships with the teachers on their staff, and they want to give the teachers really great feedback about their teaching and their practice. And they want to do it very kindly, but also very directly. We really want to make sure that kids continue to progress, and every child deserves a great teacher. And that's what principals are striving to do, is they're trying to create a great teacher in front of every child. And so somebody turned me on to a book that I haven't started yet, but I'm really excited. It's called Radical Candor: How to Be a Kick-Ass Boss. And it's this whole notion.
Great subtitle.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Who doesn't want to be that?
Right.
And the whole premise is really about maintaining a relationship, but also being very direct and giving feedback in a collaborative and supportive way. And so we sometimes in teaching, we have this culture of nice where, we won't say what we know needs to be said just so we can keep things moving or keep the peace or keep the harmony. And we know we need to push on each other professionally so that we can continue to grow in our practice. And so I'm excited to read this book to figure out how to help principals balance that feedback, because one of the most important roles of that principal is to pay attention to what their teachers are doing and to be knowledgeable enough to give really effective feedback that moves people forward.
Well, and we all know that really the teacher is what makes the biggest difference. Curriculum any teacher can deliver curriculum, but great teachers, have relationships with kids, and therefore, knowing you have a relationship with your principal that can help you grow would be amazing.
That's the art part of teaching. They talk about the art and science of teaching. Yeah. The art is one that develops, you think about your teaching career, and it's taken and will continue to take many, many years to develop an art like teaching. So I think that's why we're both passionate about talking about teaching.
Yeah, and I think you're right that so many times I get feedback from people and it's all praise because they think that's what you want to hear. And yet if you're really a teacher who wants to grow and change, then you have to be able to take the feedback that's, well, here's an area to make growth. And it doesn't have to be like an area where you aren't performing well, or it's more, hey, you could improve this. You could elevate that practice. So it would be amazing to have people leading that are helping you figure out what are those areas you could elevate.
And inspire. I think that's probably the best part of teaching. The coolest part of teaching is that innovation, that creativity, that exploration. That's what feeds my soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were going to have a segment called Top Tweets, and I didn't tweet about this yet, but I totally could. I actually did steal it from Facebook, which is kind of like tweeting. I got my kids introduced this week to Wordle, and I tried it for the first time myself, and I quickly became obsessed. And I love that you can only do one a day. Well, you can find the archives, but I like that you only have one challenge a day. I can't get sucked in and spend hours. So I introduced it to my 5th graders this week, and then they wouldn't go to lunch because they had to solve it. And so these are kids who don't even...
That's the best day ever when you can get them so they won't go
get them so turned on. And we don't even have lunch till 1:00. So they're hungry by then. They should want to go to lunch. And so they were super excited about Wordle. And so my new find over the weekend, just in fact this morning, was to realize that there are math versions of Wordle. And so my tweet of the week would be about Nerdle.
Oh my gosh.
And there's another one called Oodle. And so those are websites where you're actually building math equations. And again, it's the same concept where it turns yellow if you've got the right number because it uses the operations too. So if it's addition.
Are you going to bring that in on Monday?
I already dropped it in Google Classroom. It's good to go. In fact, I dropped a couple of them in there so the kids can get energized about that next week. So those are kind of some fun things I'm looking forward to showing the kids next week that I found this week.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, what a great tweet. Can't wait to hear how that goes.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
my top tweet of the week was, we have been in school 100 days this week. So 100-day celebration at one of our elementary schools where the kindergartners, the big thing to do in kindergarten is to make 100 of something. And so they create 100 of something with beads or with pennies or different items. And so they had all of these cool poster boards of their 100th day of school to count out 100 items. And then they had these self-portraits that they made of themselves at 100. With
that.
The gray hair and the wrinkles and glasses. And it's just such a cute time of year to celebrate that 100th day of school. And you think about our kindergartners this year, and this is their first school experience. And thankfully for us, it's been a mostly in person. In person, typical school experience. And so just felt like a great celebration to get to that 100th day of school with them this year.
I had my 5th graders join in this year. We did we solved 100 math problems as a class.
Nice.
So they took their problems, and then we had a big chart that they were writing their answers on the chart. And if they succeeded, I would buy them a treat. So yes, we had to go to the store and buy cookies for Thursday, actually, because Wednesday was a snow day.
Right.
So Tuesday was the 100th day, and then Thursday was the day that I had to take them cookies because they got their 100 problems.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Another celebration.
Exactly.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Good week all around.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we talked about on our podcast is talking about the chocolate barometer of the week, and all teachers mostly across the board love chocolate and gift each other chocolate. Gifts of chocolate, give chocolate, buy chocolate, have a chocolate drawer. So the chocolate barometer started when I was a school principal and we had a drawer of chocolate in the office. And depending on how full the bag was at the end of the week was a good barometer for how the week was for people. And so if the bag was mostly empty, you knew it was a rough week around the school. So what was your week like? What scale on the chocolate barometer?
Oh, I think we were talking about 1 to 10 on the chocolate barometer, and I'm gonna say it was probably like an 8. It was a huge blessing that we had the snow day that we had on Wednesday, and then we had late start Thursday. So I got the gift of time, which how often do you get the gift of time? But it's also a curse because then I had to figure out how to fit everything we were going to get done this week into less time. But for the most part, like I finally had all my class back. Of course, with the pandemic going on, it's been kids in and out, but most of them were in again finally. So we were together again, and we had a snow day, and they were excited to come back from that. And I just feel like the kids have come back from Christmas break more ready to learn. Last semester was a little more of a challenge, and we're feeling a little more settled. So although they're also already feeling overwhelmed because we passed the 100th day, they know they're over halfway through their last school year at our elementary school, and they're that much closer to middle school. So
yeah, that creates a different set of anticipation.
Yes. In fact, this week we had the middle school counselor visits, so where they get to find out a little bit about middle school. So not only was Tuesday the 100th day, and they realized it was over halfway through the school year, it was also the day the middle school counselors came in and made them think about the future.
A big week.
Yeah.
A big week for them. Yeah. It's fun to have those transition moments for kids.
Yeah. It's fun to help them through it. So, and they're usually pretty scared to do it. And it's fun to see them. They tend to come back and visit and to see that it worked out just fine.
Yeah. There was nothing to be scared about.
Nope. In fact, they love it usually. So I try not to take offense at that they don't miss me as much as they thought they would. But it's good. It's a good thing. Good. They're supposed to go like middle school.
Right. Yeah, I would say the chocolate barometer for me this week started out, felt like really hard. Like there was a lot of big decisions to be made this week. And then just ended on a really great note for all of our high schools will get to play a football game at our university stadium here in town in the fall. And so that just feels like a really cool experience. So got to celebrate, just neat things happening for kids, and when people come together to do great things for the kids in the community, it just always feels so good.
Well, especially when you get the community involvement, because I think that's what all districts strive for, and sometimes we're successful at it, and sometimes not. So to find ways to pull that all together feels like we're doing what we should.
Absolutely. Well, looking forward to another great week of teaching.
Woo-hoo.
Woo. Thanks for joining us on Teachers Talking Teaching. This is Tracy.
And this is Tracy. If you liked what you heard today, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we're looking forward to sharing more content in the coming weeks.